Where do you want to put the Rockies? You want to do it at the end?
I mean, I want to put him in AAA.
Relegation.
I mean, they're like the case for relegation. Yeah, absolutely.
I think,
gosh,
I know.
and it's frustrating. Denver's, I think, a great sports town.
Yes.
And I think those folks really care about the Rockies. When they're interesting, they come out. It is a great baseball town. I've always loved coming through there. I think the ballpark is wonderful. The city is wonderful. The fans are into it. But, I think they've just been beaten down by this. And when you look at what they're running out there, it's hard not to feel beaten down by it, especially when you look up at the other teams in the division. We were just talking about the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, Diamondbacks have got some really good players, a bunch of them actually, right?
Yeah.
And that's your fourth best team in the league. And I don't think the Colorado Rockies are particularly close. And I'm not even sure what the plan is moving forward, which is the other part of this. It's not even that they're not very good right now. I think teams have competitive windows, in fairness. It's just I'm not quite sure what the plan moving forward is here. And I think if you're a fan in Denver or of the Rockies, it is tough sledding right now. You don't even know what direction they're going in.
No. My old esteemed colleague, Rob Nyer, he said his favorite ballpark in baseball is Coors Field. And that's coming from a guy who can tell you what the concession stands at the Baker Bowl were selling. He knows his history. He knows ballparks, and he's been all around the country seeing ballparks. And he says, Coors Field, that's it. That's the best one. I love that ballpark to its core. And the fans come out. The fans come out for bad teams. It's an event. It's right downtown. It's just a part of that city. But I've written about this. I've talked about it on the podcast a lot. This is going to be something I'm just going to hammer into the ground because it's, to me, the single truth about Rockies baseball is their job is twice as hard as any other team. It's just they have to figure out baseball, which is impossible. Then they have to figure out physics, which is also impossible. They have to figure out how to build a team around an outfield that's 16 acres deep, but also the balls fly out over the yard. They've tried sinker ballers. They've tried fly ball pitchers. They've tried piggyback starters. They have tried 6-man rotations. They've tried this. They've tried that. It's just too hard to deal with. And then you add in, you've got one of those owners that kind of the buck stops here owners, where they're going to have a say and they're going to say, this guy stays, this guy goes. That's not great because it's very rare that you get one of those owners who helps, right? I think the Warriors have one. That's our Warriors mention because Andy's gone.
Ding, ding.
But they're not a baseball team. So I think the Rockies have just a terrible time of it. And how can you blame them?
Yeah, I almost don't want to spend too much time on it because it's depressing. Like if you're a Rockies fan, it's no fun to sit here and be like, yeah, the team is not very good. They're not going to be good for quite some time. And we don't see a path to them being very good in a while. So, but that's sort of the situation they're faced with, which is really unfortunate because I think the franchise and the city, and I mean, there's a lot going for it, right? And we've talked about that. There is a lot going for it if they were just able to figure it out. And in fairness, I mean, Grant, I know I've heard you say that many times, and it's true every single time. They're having to figure out some big picture things on parallel tracks, baseball physics, right? Very difficult. Yeah. But unfortunately for them, they keep making all the unforced errors too. And when you do that, right, you've got two big time challenges, obviously, one of which, doesn't apply to every club in baseball, right? The physics part is unique to them, but also the unforced errors that they seem to make. The Nolan Arenado trade, I just think about, and it looks even worse, right? It looked terrible at the time, and it looks even worse now. And it's just hard to see them as anything but bereft of direction. That's the issue here. It's bereft of direction. It reminds me of the Detroit Tigers, right? We've looked at the Tigers have been seemingly rebuilding forever.
Yeah.
And but at least now, with the changes they made in the front office, it looks like they've got some kind of direction. And I think the Rockies are still waiting for that.
Yeah, it is. The unforced errors, for example, Daniel Bard seems like a salt of the earth dude, good dude. You don't sign 37,
Bad
38-year-old
business.
closers to
Yeah.
long-term deals. That doesn't move yeah. So there's that. You've got their analytics department has been gutted, and you can see it. It's hilarious when you pull up a list of the teams, how many shifts they did last year. You got the Dodgers at the top. The Dodgers are shifting every batter. And then you've got 29th place is, I don't know who they are. I can't remember, but it's a team that shifts, a little bit, a decent amount. And they've got the Rockies who just don't shift. They just generally don't shift. And I think that's because they don't have the intern pushing the buttons to see who they should shift for. I don't know, man. And my hot take is that this roster it's not the worst roster in baseball. And I don't think it's especially close to the worst roster in baseball. I think there are enough major leaguers on it. You've got Marquez and Kyle Freeland. Like, you've got guys who should be in the major leagues throughout the roster, but they didn't sign a single free agent this offseason. Major league free agent. I think that's true. Maybe I dreamt that. But no, seriously, like, that is no help is coming from outside. So,
No.
yeah, that's
and and Chris Bryant signed there, and he spent most of the season hurt.
Yeah.
And obviously, the best predictor of future injury is past injury.
Yeah.
It's hard to see this guy all of a sudden just posting all the time. And even if he does, right, like, he's north of 30. I know you get the Coors effect that helps out a little bit, obviously, but I just don't know if you're ever going to see anything close to the player he used to be, right? And that's just a tough thing. Where who's their, like, projected WAR leader right now? Is it Ryan McMahon?
Probably Ryan McMahon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's tough. It's tough sledding when you've got, again, I think 4 other organizations that are doing things really well. And I put the Arizona Diamondbacks in there. I think you and I are in agreement there, Grant. Maybe this is the segue there, because I'm kind of tired of burying the poor Rockies. But, like, on the opposite end of this, I think it's admirable that the Arizona Diamondbacks have accumulated a bunch of quality ball players, despite the fact that they are staring up at, this is like a very steep mountain to try to climb and sneak in and sneak around some of these Goliaths in their division. But man, I think they've done a really nice job.